I'd like to invite Deepa Driver, who has been a legal observer throughout the whole of the court system, working very closely with us to document and push through the obstacles in observing this case at every step. So please welcome Deepa Driver.
Thank you. That's the support.
Isn't it wonderful to see the amount of support from people on the street who understand that the reason we are here is not just because we care about Julian. It's because we care about democracy, we care about human rights, we care about our family and friends. Because were it not for whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning, like Edward Snowden, like Daniel Hale, like David McBride, we would not know what happens behind closed doors, in the corridors of power, where the decisions about whether, for example, your child who is in a care home or your elderly relative who is in hospital, or your friends who are living in the Middle East, or you have family somewhere else in the world, say in Africa where there is toxic waste dumping, you wouldn't know about the crimes that the big corporations or the big states commit were it not for the courage of these whistleblowers. And in standing here today, we honor those whistleblowers and we honor the journalists who publish what these whistleblowers say. And they don't just publish it like WikiLeaks did, because, you know, we get a lot of people saying, oh, Julian Assange is a whistleblower. No, he's not. He's a publisher. And the reason WikiLeaks was so important and so revolutionary in publishing was because WikiLeaks was able to undertake a very strict and rigorous process using experts like Andy Worthington on the Guantanamo files, or experts like John Sloboda and others at Iraq Body Counts to look at the true cost of the Iraq war. And it is because of these leaks and this information that we understood that Britain and America didn't go to Afghanistan to free the women of Afghanistan, which was what we were told. We didn't go to Iraq to free the people of Iraq from Saddam Hussein and his weapons of mass destruction. We didn't put people in Guantanamo Bay prison without trial or charge because they were the worst of the worst. We did it because there were corrupt, dishonest, and inhumane people in positions of power which they should not have been in. And were it not for Chelsea Manning's courage, and for the courage of all those people who worked behind the scenes at WikiLeaks alongside Julian Assange, that we would not have known the true cost of war, the true cost of Guantanamo. And that is why you can hear these horns blaring behind me, because there are activists on the ground who are encouraging people to understand what's really going on, because what Julian did was allow transparency. But since 2010, we've had Libya, we've had Syria, we've had so many, Yemen for example, so many unnecessary and illegal wars. And the reason we've had them is because the ordinary public does not understand what's really going on, even when the leaks are in front of them. Because we don't know where to look and we don't know whom to trust. And it is to prevent us from having people we can trust, who give us the real information, that Julian is being silenced. There is an element of revenge. There is an element of punishment by process, for which this court has an important role, as does the Old Bailey. Because it is in this court that Julian went through what was a completely rigged process. A process where there was no justice, no fairness, where people were queuing. I mean, I only got into the court at the Old Bailey, and in fact here, because of those people in this audience, some of them, and who are hopefully watching online, and I'm grateful to you, that the only reason I was able to monitor the hearings, when they allowed only 2 people into a court which could hold 96, members of the public, was because the members of the public provided me a seat and provided me a space to be able to come and report the minimum safeguards, the right to a free, fair trial, the right to consult with your lawyer without having those conversations spied upon. All those kinds of rights were denied. But those are the big violations. But there was the day-to-day humiliation that we all saw, whether we were at Belmarsh or here, where Julian's elderly father was forced to climb 4 flights of stairs, not encouraged to use the lift, because I remember asking to use the lift because I had an injury, and I was told, oh yeah, you can go to the other door for the lift, but you lose your place in the queue. I was told you can take in pen and paper, but you're not allowed to write. And this is to a legal observer who represents the Whole Day Society of Socialist Lawyers, the United European Left, and the European Lawyers for Democracy and World Human Rights. Despite having these big names behind me, I was not allowed to observe the trial in any level of, with any level of dignity. And my lack of dignity is neither here nor there. What they were dishonoring is the justice system, because all those lawyers, the legal community, the judges who are watching while basic rights of legal privilege, while basic rights of a fair trial, while the international bodies, the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention and the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture make findings, and Britain is still complicit in the persecution of a political prisoner. Britain talks about Ivan Gashevich in Russia, but in the heart of London, in Belmarsh, we have Britain's political prisoner, Julian Assange.
Yes.
Shame on you!
Shame on you, United Kingdom!
Shame on Britain! Shame on America!
Shame on you!
And shame on Sweden and Australia and Ecuador.
And Ecuador!
Because
Shame on you!
Ecuador was, under Rafael Correa, made a very brave move to grant asylum to someone whose life was threatened. And when we threatened the right to asylum, we threatened the rights of those people arriving on boats, those people displaced by the very wars that Julian Assange revealed. And it is for these people, for the people who were killed, who were maimed, an 8-year-old child, Hanan Saleh Matroud, who used to collect sweets from the soldiers who were shot down in the street, for the children who were killed, shown in the collateral murder video that everybody can watch online at collateralmurder.wikileaks.org, the children who were harmed and their father who was killed simply for being a good Samaritan and picking up a dying man off the street, a journalist, a Reuters journalist. And it is for these people that we stand here today and we demand justice. Justice from the magistrates' court, justice from the judges, justice from the lawyers who are upholding the system. The Crown Prosecution Service is complicit in the violation of basic human rights. The Crown Prosecution Service was involved in watching Julian having a stroke in court while the lawyer was sitting in the well of the court saying he was malingering. These kinds of basic violations of humanity are some things that we should stand against. Because it's not just about Julian, it's about us.
Yes!
And today we stand together to say, free Julian Assange!
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 Free Julian
you, Deepa. Thank you. Always on the side of justice. Always on the side of justice. Now, after the wonderful speech she's given us, I would like to invite someone who's very, very dear to us, independent journalist, Gordon Deepa.
Hey, Gordon!
With us
Come on,
for years and years and years, amplifying our simple work of solidarity amongst his many, many subscribers and followers. Now, always being a voice for justice, a voice for the freedom of Julian Assange. Thank you, Gordon, for joining us today.
Thank you, Bravo. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It is really important that you are all here today. We're live at the moment, so hundreds of people on TikTok. Say hello to everybody. But there's the occasional person in the chat, as you can hear from the support by the people who are beeping their horns as they're going past. There's occasionally, you get the occasional person who says something that we know is totally untrue about Julian. There were maybe charges in Sweden. There were never any charges in Sweden, of course. And why is it that we hear such lies from people? It's because they are repeating it, because they've heard these lies from the mainstream media who are conspicuous in their absence today. Lies such as the one gentleman in the chat, in the live chat was saying that Julian released publications that got people killed. That was what the person in the chat said. And the reason, of course, that they say this is because they themselves are victims. They are victims of propaganda.
Yes.
They believe in these things because they have been fooled into believing them. The mainstream media have lied about Julian for over a decade. They profited from his publications and then they threw him under the bus when the State Department went after him. And I want to talk a little today about the media. I want to focus on them. Because one of my first speeches I ever made was in front of the Ecuadorian embassy 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I talked about the fundamentals of journalism. And I talked about how it's so important for journalists to A, be a point where they can gather information or get it from people who, you know, are risking their lives, to then check it's true and then to publish it if it's in the public interest, and most of all, to protect their source. Because whistleblowers are a fundamental pillar of journalism and a fundamental, therefore, of democracy and the fourth estate. And what are we seeing now with the journalists over in America, in the New York Times, for instance? They're not just not protecting whistleblowers, they're actively outing whistleblowers, as we've seen with the recent Pentagon Papers leak with Jack Teixeira. Yes, the New York Times brag in their publication that they found him for the State Department to then go and arrest. They're going against the fundamentals of journalism. You're supposed to protect whistleblowers, not go after them. You're going against the fundamentals of your own profession. And then I see a State Department press conference where all the journalists in the press conference get this. I'm not asking about the implications of this worldwide, because let's remember, these leaks in the Pentagon, these Pentagon leaks, they prove that all of the stuff that the media have been telling you for the last 12 months about the war in Ukraine is all lies. Yes. They've been repeating it, and now, for the person that showed them up to be all liars, they outed him and got him arrested. Can you believe that? This is what our journalists are now doing, our so-called journalists. I had a thought, the other day. You know how we're hearing that there were upwards of 50 FBI agents in the crowd on January the 6th? And you know how we're hearing that people high up in the Proud Boys, they were all FBI undercover informants too. I wonder how many of these journalists asking these State Department figureheads questions are actually FBI agents themselves, because they're certainly not journalists, are they? You're supposed to demand. Come on! Free Julian Assange! This is the same country, remember, that is pointing fingers around the world at other nations right now and saying, your stuff stinks. We need to defend media freedom around the world whilst actively trying to criminalise the very publication that has had a 100% success of exposing their lies. They're not just not defending media freedom, they're actively trying to dismantle it, and then the media is publishing their words like it's 100% true. It's pathetic. These people are telling us fairy stories now, whilst the person who's told us the most truth, more truth than all of them combined for the previous 50 years, they've locked up in BELMARSH and seemingly want dead. That is what's happened to the media in this country. They are not fit for purpose, and they are lying to you about almost goddamn everything. We need to turn on them, because right now they are actively going against democracy. They are actively trying to hijack it on behalf of the people they do public relations to. So what I want to talk to you now, the crowd here, because you are the most important people. You all know what's good and what's true and what's right. I want you to join in with me if you don't mind. I want to ask you some questions. And at the end of every question I ask you, the answer is the same. The answer is free Julian Assange. Are you ready?
Yes!
Do you want to know the truth about 9/11?
Yes!
Free Julian Assange! Do you want to know the truth about Tony Blair?
Free Julian Assange!
Do you want to know the truth about George Bush's war crimes?
Free Julian
Do you
Assange!
want to know the truth about the wars in the Middle East?
Free Julian
Do you
Assange!
want to know the truth about the financial crisis?
Free Julian Assange!
Do you want to know the truth about Obama's drone wars?
Free Julian Assange!
Do you want to know the truth about Jeffrey Epstein?
Free Julian Assange!
Do you want to know the truth about why Jeffrey Epstein had 13 different ways of contacting Peter Mandelson?
Free Julian Assange!
Do you want a free and fair and transparent government?
Free Julian Assange!
And do you want to live in a real democracy?
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange now! Free Julian Assange now! Free Julian Assange now! There's only one decision! There's only one decision! There's only one decision! Free him now! Thank you, everybody!
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you so much. Always clear, always powerful in your message. So grateful, always on our side. Thank you.
Okay, I'm here today. I come on a Saturday for the Solidarity Vigil that's been running here since the week that he was put in prison, which is 4 years ago. So, and
this is an anniversary today, isn't it?
It's not on the day, but he was imprisoned the 11th of April 4 years ago. So today's the first day we could organise a trip for everybody to join in, and it being Sunday. And so I come regularly on our usual Solidarity Vigils on a Saturday between at lunchtime. I come for lunchtime, 12 o'clock till 2, and there's local people and people come from all over the world. And every Saturday, unless there's summer holidays, special things, they've done this and then walk in unison together and chant and shout and send messages of solidarity to Julian in the prison. And they've been doing that for 4 years. It's such a commitment.
Can he hear us?
Apparently, it depends on where he is. I think when it's very loud with megaphones, I think he might. But we know that prisoners send messages and staff send messages to say they're there, Julian. So he knows that we do and support him. And his birthday last year was tremendous, really a tremendous celebration. And, I think people are starting to feel that there might be some movement to release him. And we've got marvellous, this is really...
We're here at BELMARSH prison on part of the Ecuadorian Embassy Magistrates Court in Westminster and the HMP BELMARSH tour. Today, after 4 years of incarceration and torture here at BELMARSH, after 4 years of incarceration and torture at HMP BELMARSH while he awaits the extradition, the High Court have not agreed a date or a time whether they will hear his appeal on the original issues that Barista found against him, and they further delay, obfuscate and deny his legal and human rights. And it's a disgrace. This country is a disgrace. And they cannot raise the human rights, freedom and democracy around the world and in Russia and other places while they have Julian Assange locked up. The hypocrisy is beyond anything. It's beyond, and we are outraged. We cannot believe.
Believing body should be outraged. This is disgusting, man.
Listen, if you want to know what's going on, you need publishers, you need journalists, and instead of tracing down the leakers and the whistleblowers, they need to be publishing what they actually show us.
Exactly.
And if you've got paperwork showing that the war in Ukraine is not going as they say it is, especially the Ministry of Defence.
Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! US, UK! Hands off Assange! US, UK! Hands off Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! There's only one decision! No extradition! There's only one decision! No extradition! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! US, UK! Hands off Assange! US, UK! Hands off Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! There's only one decision! No extradition! There's only one decision! No extradition! We remember over a decade ago when they persuaded the British and the international public that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, despite all the evidence, despite their own experts telling them that this was a fantasy, they went ahead. And still today, there are foreign forces in Iraq, not in Afghanistan, because those people, they've moved to Syria. They have occupied the northern, nearly a third of Syria, the wealthiest, the most oil, the most agriculture, And today they foment the wars against Russia and China. These people are suicidal, warmongering idiots, and we demand free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! No!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! No!
4 years ago, on the 11th of April 2019, he was brutally arrested inside the Ecuadorian embassy. He was dragged, his feet never touched the ground. He was thrown inside a police van with the police officers doing the job, smirking.
Shame! Shame on them. Evil bastards.
The institution of political asylum, gone. No respect for international law. The principle of the right to know, the right to freely publish truthful information in the public interest, gone. The presumption of innocence in British courts, gone. And this building here
Horrific,
is
BELMARSH!
housing a man of words, an intellectual, peaceful man,
Innocent.
dedicated his life in public service through his work, and has become a symbol of injustice,
Yes!
a terrible injustice that today we declare. We shall continue defending this man. We shall continue defending our right to know what our government is doing in our name behind closed doors. And we'll continue to support everyone who, whether it is an issue of conscience, turns to the media to reveal crimes, corruption of the powerful, to inform the citizens of what is going on behind closed doors. Julian Assange is not the only, but he is the foremost political prisoner of this country.
And the world!
All around the world, he is not viewed in the same way as he is viewed by the establishment of this country. But the people of this country support Julian Assange.
Yes.
If extradition cases relied upon juries, no jury would send him to America to face his tormentors. Plenty, ample evidence the United States of America was planning the assassination, kidnapping, rendition of a publisher in the heart of London. No jury, no human being of learning the story of what has occurred would not free him. And we therefore, and our job is to rely on people to put pressure, political pressure on the public officials, on elected politicians, on the judiciary, to finally dismiss this case and free Julian Assange!
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 And free him now! Free Julian Assange now!
Free Julian Assange!
So we came today from Belgium
Bravo!
to bring a message to you all fellow supporters, but also to Julian. Julian, we are there for you, and we will never stop to claim your freedom. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! Libérez le prisonnier politique! Thank you, Belgium! Thank you!
And of course we also have representative from France.
Bravo, beautiful France!
And I have to say, every time I come here, I remember Bastille.
Bravo,
And what happened to that fine institution? Yes, you can say both in French and in English. Short.
Beautiful, thank you, Frank.
Just nothing, just put it on your mouth.
Okay, the first time we came, French people, it was October 19 to Westminster Court. It was the first time I saw Julian, who couldn't remember his own date of birth, and it was a shock. And I told me I'll never stop to fight for his freedom. Now we came with different buses for the hearings here in Belmarsh. I came in July for the birthday, and it's very moving to me to be here today.
Thank you.
To tell him we'll never stop to fight for his freedom, but not only for him, like he used to say. You're not fighting just for me, you are just fighting for all of us.
Bravo.
For democracy, for the right to know, the right to inform, and the right to be informed. So for journalism, free journalism, as our dear friend Joe Biden says, apropos journalists in Russia, journalism is not a crime. So, free Julian Assange.
Free
Julian Assange!
Libérez Julian Assange.
Libérez Julian Assange!
Maintenant.
Maintenant!
Means now. So, free Assange, Julian, we're here, and we will come again until you're free.
Absolutely.
Bravo.
Well said.
Gracias,
Thank you very much.
Hello. Hello, fellow supporters. I'm here. I also came from France to support Julian Assange. It's the third time I come to London, second time here to Belmarsh. I was here for the Human Chain and for the Carnival. I just wanted, us to all think of Julian and how, what he's undergoing, all his solitude. Unfortunately, he's become a martyr. He really is suffering. I wanted us all to take a minute to think of what he's going through, all his loneliness and his suffering. So at least we're all gathering through these beautiful events, such as the Human Chain around the Houses of Parliament in October, the beautiful carnival we participated in February, was it last month or 2 months ago already. So thank you all for being here. Julian, we love you. Julian, we believe that you're here for us to live in a better world, for us to have true information, and that's a good thing. Thank you all, and once again, free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange now.
Free Julian Assange now.
Free Julian Assange now.
Free Julian Assange now.
2023, time to set him free. 2023, time to set him free. Thank you very much.
Viva Francia! Viva Francia! Thank you! Thank you!
Anyone else?
Someone else, I hope.
Okay, someone asked me to translate, so en tant que Français, je souhaite déclarer que nous sommes la France, le pays des droits de l'homme, qui avons refusé la demande d'asile de Julian Assange plusieurs fois, et c'est une honte absolue. We have refused, as the French government refused the asylum of Julian Assange several times, and it's an absolute shame. Julian Assange, on est ici, on vient de la France, et on est là pour te soutenir. Et on espère que tu seras libéré bientôt, 2023, en espérant que tu seras libéré bientôt. 2023, time to set him free.
2023, time to set him free.
2023, time to set him free.
2023, time to
Libérez Julian Assange. Libérez Julian Assange. Libérez-le maintenant. Libérez-le maintenant. Merci beaucoup.
Wonderful. International solidarity. This is the grim reality of Belmarsh prison. These are the awful grey concrete walls. And worse fate awaits him in America. He has described himself a concrete box. This type of concrete, a box.